Again, you are listening to Champion Your Life with me, Leighanne Champion. This episode is part 2 of the previous one where we first looked at the concept of emotional childhood. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, be sure to check it out. Today, however, we're going to look at the flip side of all of this, emotional adulthood. And I'm glad that we get to focus on this parallel concept and discuss how to invite more of this mature, confident, self-assured, and responsible energy into our lives. Okay, so emotional adulthood is developing awareness around every single thought we choose to feel. It's when we begin to make choices for how we really want to show up in the world, even when things are hard, even when things are difficult, even when people disappoint, even when things feel unfair. And they will, of course, because we're all human. But when we respond this way, when we do this, we end up feeling so much more empowered, and we get to be the individuals we truly want to be instead of existing in this default emotional childhood space. Instead of acting out like an out-of-control child, we can allow ourselves to own our feelings without acting out or blaming other people. When we are in emotional adulthood, we learn to speak our truth in love. From a clean mental slate, we can then take the kind of action that produces the results that we really want in our lives. We become more thoughtful, more self-aware, more circumspect, less likely to lash out, less likely to become offended. And remember, emotional adulthood is when you also, it's kind of exciting, it's also when we're in this state we begin to achieve, whether it's acquiring a degree, a master's, or maybe just a change up in your career, trying entrepreneurship, or maybe even just experiencing deeper and more fulfilling relationships within your family. But the key here to all of the things is the ability to manage your mind, to manage your emotions. So when we really break this down, emotional adulthood is about ownership, isn't it? And it's all done internally in our own minds. It's when we decide to do this healthy mind management work and process all of our thoughts and all of our feelings all the way through. It's when we recognize that our emotional life is generated from within us 100% of the time. So no matter what is happening out there, right, in the present day world, we decide what we want to believe and feel in here. This is our most powerful stance in life because remember, we will have more peace, more confidence, and authority when we do this, when we show up this way. And look, as we're discussing this, I want you to have zero beating yourself up around emotional childhood. It's not like, oh, I'm such a loser, I'm doing this all the time, I'm so bad. Not at all. It's just the understanding that when we are in emotional childhood, we're powerless. When I'm in that place, I don't have as much authority over my life. And remember what I said, most of us do spend a lot of time in emotional childhood. And thankfully, we can start to begin to awaken to it and catch ourselves when we're in it. And you will begin to see it in others, and they're in it for sure, but you can let it go because you get it. You've been there yourself, right? But I really believe there is so much potential here for personal growth in just this one concept. So I guess the question is, how do we achieve emotional adulthood? Well, I really believe the only way to get to it is through our own self-reflection. We got to show up. We got to do the work. It's our responsibility. We got to do the work on our minds. So here are the key takeaways for this concept. So maybe I'd love you to just grab a pen or open a Word doc if you want to take some notes, all right? Here we go. So emotional adulthood is, number one, developing awareness around every single thought we're choosing to feel. Number two, letting go of victim mentality, no longer at the mercy of others' behavior. Number three, understanding that it is our job actually to make us feel secure. Number four, that we are responsible for our own happiness, pain, and joy. And number five, letting go of thinking that we can control another human being. It's funny, whenever I read this list, I'm always so humbled because really staying in emotional adulthood realm, in that realm, it's really no small feat. But I believe the challenge is so worth it. I like to think of it as our life homework every single day. And I get it. It can be tough out there. People can be rude, people can compete, people can manipulate, and some people in our lives are just simply emotionally unavailable. But in those moments, why would we want to let that behavior win? Why would we want to do that? When happiness or feeling productive or choosing peace is just a thought away. Now, I just want to touch briefly on this idea of responding versus reacting. When we are in emotional adulthood, we can learn to respond in our life rather than react. You all likely know those moments when someone has said something and you are triggered or in shock and you kind of lash out or you react without really thinking. You know, we've all been there. But being in emotional adulthood is it's like taking a deep breath after something that is said or done to us and choosing to pause instead of react. We decide right in that moment who we really want to be by how we respond. The power in that little pause is tremendous, isn't it? Now, I really want you to be kind to your emotional adult and your emotional child. I mean, even when successfully functioning in emotional adulthood, you're going to take actions you regret at times. I mean, because we're all human, right? But just own it and apologize. My bad. I want you to know that one was on me. You know, it's funny these days, you don't hear it enough, but those 3 magic words, I'm sorry, they go a long way. But knowing you are responsible for the way you feel also means you understand that you're responsible for the way you behave too. There's this beautiful quote from Colin Wilson, and it says, "Your desire to change must be greater than your desire to stay the same." I love that. So I just want you to be curious about it. Treat yourself with kindness because now you know you can change if you choose to. In closing, I just want to say that emotional adulthood is such a beautiful, honest, and powerful place to reside. It's just such a pure place where you have clarity over your emotional life. And I want you also to understand that in no way does it feel perfect. It just feels authentic, real, and right. Being an emotional adult requires more effort for sure than hanging out in emotional childhood. It requires significantly more responsibility and more healthy mind management. But you know what? I promise you, it's worth it. No one is perfect, but taking that step towards managing yourself and your mind so that you aren't so dependent on others for how you think and feel, it feels a lot like grace in action. And I think we all could use a little more grace these days, don't you? But once you see the difference, you'll be so glad you took that first step. Because what do we have? We only have this one precious life. Let's show up and live it to its fullest. You've been listening to Champion Your Life with me, Leighanne Champion. Go to my website, leave me a message. Let's champion your life together.